When is a naughty, energetic child simply a bright spark, or displaying a pattern of behavior that indicates a much more serious condition? Attention Deficit Hyperactive Disorder, ADHD, can wreck the lives of children and parents.
I used to have like fits. I got so angry I'd like kick the wall down mostly. I got really wound up so much.
When he was awake, he was like a whirlwind from morning till night. And we used to joke that, you know, where did he get his energy from? Well, we knew because he sucked it out of us like a vampire.
Hitting people, getting angry. When I get angry with myself, I don't take it out on myself, I take it out on other people.
She'll try anything on anybody. She can be a compulsive liar and can be quite deceptive in regards to what she wants and what she wants to get away with.
I think it's both important and difficult to make the distinction between a child who's naughty, who's got the toddler tantrums, and a child who's got a problem in their development. The key thing that makes the difference is that in ADHD, a child can't organise themselves. It's not just a matter of being determined or naughty or defiant. It's a matter of being deficient in the ability to wait, to pause, to think, to reflect.
Our son Richard, who is now 11, started showing behaviour that caused us concern from an early age. When he was a toddler, when we went to mother and toddler groups, he raced around, snatched toys from other children, was very aggressive, and ultimately, after a short time of trying groups like that, we were actually asked to leave. Oh, at this age, it was just, oh, he's nearly 2, so it's toddler tantrums, you know, the terrible twos. I was told that this was normal.
The majority of the characteristics aren't any different from any other child would display. It's just that it displays every poor characteristic and so extreme. And these children are masters at manipulation. Richard just knew every button to press. He knew every way to continually wind you up.
Diagnosing ADHD can be difficult, particularly in a lively toddler. But by school age, the symptoms may be extreme and could be a real handicap to the child. They include a lack of attention leading to mistakes, difficulty interacting with others, fidgeting, being unable to sit still or to calm down, impulsiveness, constantly interrupting others, forgetfulness, and engaging in physically dangerous activities without considering the consequences.
I don't actually know when I'm being bad behaved until somebody tells me, really, and then that's too late. I can't get along with people because I'm silly when they come round.
In past years, I think many children with the problem would have been regarded as naughty or lazy or stupid. Over the last few years, the last 3 or 4 years, there has, I think, been a considerable increase in recognising it. It'd be very hard to say exactly how often now, but I would guess it's something like 1 child in 200, perhaps.
Even now, some schools, education authorities and health professionals do not recognise ADHD.
When we were told that Richard had ADHD, my initial reaction was one of overwhelming guilt. And I just felt awful. And he was 8, and we had got to the stage where our relationship with him had deteriorated to such an extent that although I loved him as my child, I disliked him intensely as a person. All his behaviour, all his life was horrendous as far as we were concerned, but he couldn't help it.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm. I personally found the label of ADHD very, very helpful.
So what is ADHD?
ADHD isn't exactly a disease in the sense of something that you have or you don't have with a single cause. It's a bit like having a blood pressure problem, in which some people have a small problem, some people have a sizable problem. And the judgment about when it needs treatment is one that's got to be made for the individual child. The brain of children with ADHD is not hyperactive. Parts of the brain are underactive. And the parts of the brain that are underactive are those that are particularly involved in inhibiting things that we do when we shouldn't do them. The sort of things that are involved in waiting, in refraining from an action, in resisting temptation. It's those controlling and inhibiting centres of the brain that are underactive in children with ADHD.
ADHD is more common in boys, but girls often remain undiagnosed.
Rosie has a tendency to be aggressive, poor self-esteem, lack of discipline, lack of concentration. Those are probably the main problems that Rosie has. Rosie had a very difficult time for several years in regards to going to people's houses, because quite often when she was there, her behaviour let her down and things would happen, or a child would be hurt, or she'd just be generally out of control. So she didn't, for quite some time, sort of get invited to birthday parties or to people's houses for tea.
The things I found hard at school is concentrating, thinking properly, and if I didn't take my tablet, that my brain waves wouldn't work properly.
There is no cure for ADHD, but a combination of treatments can help children. Psychiatrists and family therapists may provide behavioural therapy.
You need to reward an ADHD child little and often. Try very hard to ignore all the little naughty things, but constantly reward the good.
These children require structure and routine, and that routine needs to be followed through both on a home basis but also at school.
Diet is a contributing factor for some children.
We have to be very careful about what we actually feed Rosie in regards to food and drink. She reacts quite badly to artificial colourings, flavourings and preservatives, so we watch her diet very carefully.
Some foods make me grumpy and misbehave, and one of those is Smarties and fizzy drinks.
We spent a long time deciding which fruits in particular that she could and couldn't eat, because a lot of fruits contain salicylates, apples, pears, oranges. There's a lot of foods to cut out that a lot of people don't realise can actually affect ADHD children.
Drugs such as Ritalin are sometimes prescribed to stimulate the release of the brain's naturally occurring chemicals.
It was very difficult to agree that Richard should take some form of medication, and we spent a lot of time considering what the options were. In essence, Ritalin, we believe, is as fundamental and as important to children with ADHD as insulin is to someone who has diabetes, and it should be viewed in exactly the same way.
Medication on its own, it's not a magic bullet, but as far as school was concerned, he could sit down in his class. It actually gave him a window to be able to learn.
I don't know whether Richard ever will grow out of ADHD. I think what he will do is learn to manage some of the more negative aspects of his behaviour. My hope is that he'll find some way of using that energy in a very positive fashion, and of being able to ensure that the negative side doesn't take precedence too much.
I want to be a geologist, an archaeologist, an artist, or I want to be in the Olympics.